Welcome back to The Evil Within. This is The Evil Within 2. We're in Chapter 11 of the game. Sebastian has entered the restricted lab area of the Morrow. He's chasing after a residual memory of Yukiko Hoffman, who got a call from Liam O'Neill to meet her on the other side of the lab. We don't know what's on the other side of the lab, but we've gotten to the lab, and there's this huge locked vault door on the first floor. We've climbed up the stairs. We've taken care of pretty much everything on the first floor at the moment. And we've climbed up the stairs to the second floor. This is when we can hear growling, but we're not sure, what's causing the growling. We're about to find out. We're going to look down this little corridor here, and we're going to see a zombie ripping a body apart. Now remember, on the first floor, there were a lot of canisters, like straight out of a Resident Evil type movie set with zombies in them. We read some documents that indicated that this was not something that they were trying to create. This was something they were trying to study and understand. They weren't sure how. They never did figure out how these zombies were being created. But we did get quite a bit of information. It started off small, 0.005% of the population. A number that small implies that they had to be at a population of around at least 10,000 for that to even round up to one person. So if you had 10,000 and you had one person turn to a zombie, you would get close to that 0.005%. Probably had to have a little bit more than 10,000 people. Their goal had been to get to 20,000 people. We read some documents, and we'll talk about those documents along with, we're going to find a couple more documents in this chapter, and we'll talk about those. We're about to figure out how to get a cerebral chip that will help us get through the vault door.
Computer file. Operative case. Our worst fears have been realized. The lost phenomenon has spread to Mobius operatives. We had theorized that transformations were results of memory overwrite, but no operatives have been overwritten. We were able to quarantine and terminate an affected Mobius operative before he could transform. Perhaps his exposure to so many lost corpses in the pit made him susceptible to whatever is causing this. Perhaps it's merely a coincidence. We are harvesting the Unity cerebral chip in the hopes that it will provide new data. Removal of an intact cerebral chip is possible with the extraction device. It's a relatively simple and automated process. Merely place the subject on the gurney and enter the extraction device's activation code, 0128.
If they haven't removed this guy's chip yet, I can use it to get through that door and find Hoffman.
I'm showing you some of the red herrings that they put around the room. If you look at the x-rays, they all have numbers on them. There is one x-ray that is of a skull, the cerebrum, that has the number 0128 on it as well. So you could have gotten that number two different ways, or you could have just remembered it if you've already played the game or seen someone else play the game. It never changes, probably because it's tied to so many elements in the room that you'd have to literally create a bunch of different versions of those elements. The other thing I'll note about that code is if you put in any of the other codes, like if you put in one of the red herrings for, like, say, the arm or the chest or something like that, it's not like it drills into the chest. It just buzzes at you and doesn't take the entry.
Unity cerebral chip. This electronic chip was implanted in the brain of a Mobius operative.
Oh, thank God he's already dead. I gotta get out of this lab.
Now, what we found from that computer file was that for the first time, Mobius operatives were beginning to be affected by whatever it is that's turning them into zombies. Now, you'll note that we know we're in STEM. There are no bacteria, there are no viruses, there's no contagions that would be causing this as a disease that would transmute from one to another. If a zombie bites a person, they don't turn into another zombie. Mobius was at a complete loss as to what was happening. All the descriptions of what the lost person, the person that turns into a lost zombie, the last part of that step is, well, okay, let's talk through the whole step. The first step is that their brains, their memories have been overwritten, right? And they do not have, the citizens do not have those cerebral chips. Only Mobius operatives have the cerebral chips. their memories have been overwritten and they've been given new identities and a new life, basically, inside of Union. What the first sign is that memories from their previous lives, the lives outside of STEM, so back in, for instance, Crimson City, if they came from Crimson City, which seemed to be the primary place that they were getting subjects to put into Union from, but if they came from there, they would their old memories, the memories of themselves before Union, would start to break through. When that would happen, of course, they would get very confused, such as the woman that we talked to back in Chapter 3 of the game. We rescued her from 5 or 6 zombies. She's like, I don't know. I went to do a sleep study with this organization. I was talking to an Oriental doctor, and the next thing I know, I woke up here, and this guy was calling me his wife, and I had this new life, and I'm not married, and that sort of thing was happening to them. Their memories would start to break, and they would remember their lives before Union. When that would happen, they would get very confused, and Mobius would take them in. They would go to see a doctor inside Union, right? A psychologist. That psychologist would put them to sleep. They would rewrite their memories again, and it was having a harder and harder time sticking. But what they found is that just before they changed into these, they call them the Lost in this game, into a zombie, just before they changed into a zombie, they would experience seeing something that was unstoppable but couldn't be seen by anybody else. Now you notice that what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to figure out where all the sounds. So all the sound seems to be coming from the first floor, but it's just echoing through the whole room, so you have a hard time knowing it's on the first floor. They designed this such that there's no way to shoot from the second floor down to the first floor. That little glass partition is set just right so that you can maybe see something on the first floor, but you cannot shoot it from the second floor. But so they would see something that was unstoppable, that was chasing them, and when they succumbed to that, when that eventually caught them, they would turn into the Lost. In the documents that we've already read in the lab, it was happening faster and faster and more violently, and people were not even looking humanoid afterwards. And we've seen some things like the Spawn, Laments. You can hear a lament down on the first floor at the moment. And so it got worse and worse and worse. And it started off very small, 0.005% of the population, but then it was, I guess, going through some sort of geometric progression, and it was growing rapidly, because as we see, when we're here, we've only encountered either Mobius operatives from the search and rescue team, or Torres wasn't part of the rescue team, but we've encountered Torres, Yukiko, and Liam O'Neill, right? And Sykes. And Sykes. Don't forget Jeremiah Sykes. So we've encountered those people. Those are all Mobius operatives with cerebral chips. Everybody else that we've encountered, that we've only encountered one citizen that was still herself, and that was the person that we rescued in Chapter 3 and left her back in her home, quote unquote home. We theorized in the last episode, and the more I've studied it, the more I think we've hit upon the real key is that what those people are seeing, that unstoppable ghost that nobody else can see that's coming after him, is the Onryō. I believe in the game, I believe if you look it up on the Wikipedia or whatever, they're going to call it Animea, something like that. But it's clearly an Onryō. It's a Japanese grudge spirit of some sort. We'll talk about that right after this. Okay. So we're going to walk around the room a little bit. So we've got the chip. We could go through the vault door now, but we're going to explore.
20% of Union's populace has succumbed already.
Our efforts have been in vain. The core escaped less than a day ago. Within hours, we began to receive reports of Lost emerging in staggering numbers. They're everywhere now. 20% of Union's populace has succumbed already, and they're actively hunting down and killing whoever is left. It's a nightmare. At this rate, there will be no one left in 2 weeks. We've lost contact with Mobius. We're trapped in here. With the Lost. It's too late to stop now. The entire Union experiment is doomed. We're all doomed. I'm sorry.
So you see from that residual memory of a research a researcher inside this restricted lab, that it grew from 0.005% to 20% of the population, and that the lost, as they're calling the zombies, that 20% was actively hunting down the other 80%. And you can see how much problem we have with them. Right? So the average citizen, the average unarmed citizen in Union didn't have much of a chance of surviving 20% of the population turning into zombies. Now, we theorized that the way the Onryō got into STEM, in this particular case, inside Union, was through the proprietor, or at least the person that shot themselves and killed themselves in the Juke Diner. We first encountered him in chapter 6, I believe it was, when we got to the part of Union where Sykes' safe house is. Remember, his residual memory said that it was appearing to him just as it had as a child, and that he felt hopeless. He wound up taking it. If he was going to have to die, he was going to die on his own terms. So he shot himself. There was a gun laying next to a chair. He's dead with a bullet hole in the side of his head, sitting in the center of the diner, Juke Diner. I believe what happened is that as a child, he saw it, whether as a true Onryō or not, don't know. But as a child, he experienced something that appeared to him basically as an Onryō, a grudge spirit. That it scared the life out of him, basically. It scared him almost to death, right? But he managed to survive it. But that he carried that haunting in the back of his mind as part of himself, as part of his core identity through the rest of his life. When he was put into STEM and his memory started to break back through, that was the memory that was breaking back through for him, was the memory of this Onryō, that an Onryō could even exist. That's the way he's seeing it. And STEM itself, since it's made up of the collective subconscious of everybody that's connected to it, when he remembered that and brought it back to life, I use the ambush again. I just love that skill. When he basically brought it to life, STEM made it real. Okay? So whether it was real when he was a child or not is sort of immaterial to the citizens of Union, in the sense that his memory of it was so vivid and so clear and so persistent as part of his personal identity of him having survived that as a child, that even in STEM, after they've rewritten his memories, they didn't rewrite enough of himself to have lost the fact that he survived an Onryō, right? And so when that Onryō memory breaks through and comes about, STEM feeds that into its collective sub-memory consciousness. And it becomes real inside STEM. Now, we saw that the Onryō, well, we didn't see the Onryō do it. We saw the priest turned into a lost zombie way back in chapter 3. And we also saw, we died in one of our encounters to the Onryō, and I showed you how we died. And what looked to us, the way we looked when Sebastian was dying, the way Sebastian looked when Sebastian was dying, compared to the way the priest was looking when he was being transformed into the lost, it was the same sort of thing. You could see this kind of glowing white, if you will, life force being sucked out of our body, right? Out through our mouth and our nose and into the Onryō. When we saw that happen to the priest, we could not see the Onryō, but we could see the life force being sucked out of him. And then he turned into the zombie. And in each of the residual memories that we've gotten of Union citizens talking about something appearing that nobody else could see that seemed unstoppable, in those residual memories, we could hear the sounds of the Onryō, either the clair de lune that it's humming, or the kind of happy, giggling, cackling sound that it makes as it moves along. And so we're convinced that it's the Onryō that's creating the zombies. And I feel there's a lot of evidence to say, I think it's a really cool connection that basically Stim took something that terrified a young boy in his childhood and made it real because that was part of him and that was part of his subconscious when he first came into being inside Stim, that Stim wound up making his memory real. And so Union was likely, that was a mistake. We walked out right in front of that Lament. And do you see the graphic around how my stamina drained? That's not me running. That's when it's screaming, that's the graphic that it uses to say your stamina's going to go away. Oh, that was a strong knife hit, huh? I'm hoping that we're running here because I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to make it to the front door. But maybe if I make it up the stairs, maybe they'll have problems with stairs the same way. Remember right before Chapter 4, between Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, we were upstairs and some spawn tried to come up the stairs and they just got stuck on the stairs. So I'm thinking, well, that might be a great mechanic. Just go up the stairs. They can't make it upstairs. Since then, on a couple other playthroughs, I've found that the Lament can make it up the stairs. It can make it up the stairs and all the way into the lab rooms if you know. But here it kind of stuck there on the side of the stairs, not at the base of the stairs. If it had been stuck at the base of the stairs, we couldn't have walked all the way down. But now we've got a problem. It seems to be stuck here. But maybe if it's stuck here, maybe we can get around and we could get through the vault door while it's distracted. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed the discussion about the Onryō. This being our blind playthrough, we haven't talked a whole lot about lore. But this is something that occurred to me as I was watching the videos, not while I was playing the game. While I was playing the game, I was pretty certain that the Onryō was what was causing the zombies, but it wasn't clear to me how that was causing, how did the Onryō get there? What is the Onryō? From the first game, the zombies were being created by Ruvik, who was the core of the Stim at the time. And so I thought the Onryō is playing that role, but the Onryō is not the core of Stim. It's not in the center of Stim, so it shouldn't have that same amount of power. But if you think about it, subconscious of a man who came into Stim having survived an encounter with either a real Onryō or something that made him believe in an Onryō as a child and made surviving that event part of his core identity, then it's pretty clear how Stim could just pull that out and just make it real. So that was a really bad. I got stuck on the edge that I had taken cover under. Now, you might knife fight a zombie. Don't try to knife fight a Lament. It's a one-shot kill if it grabs you. You saw this as we were going to City Hall in Chapter 4. Between Chapter 4 and Chapter 5, there was a spot that we got killed by a Lament. Left that on screen because it's a really cool death. Just like the Onryō death was really cool. They will grab you, hold you up, and just spit acid all over you. And you just melt away. Think Raiders of the Lost Ark type melting. So we haven't talked a whole lot of lore, but lately we've been encountering documents, and it seemed important enough to talk about how the zombies are coming about. That the zombies aren't actually part of Lily going missing. They're not. It's not related to that. This was a failure that was going to happen inside Union the moment they introduced the person that killed himself inside Juke Diner. That person is what made the Onryō real, and Union is doomed from the start. But what has happened is that because Lily is no longer connected as the core, is no longer sending signals as the core, communication with Mobius on the outside of the world has been disrupted. So the researchers and everything in here trying to deal with this have had no way to call home to get to get somebody on the outside to help, right? So they've just been stuck in here dealing with this. And from their perspective, it's a zombie outbreak, right? I mean, this is the zombie apocalypse for them. I'm telling you, that ambush is the best skill in the game. I've watched another YouTuber, Gab Smolders. She's played the game back when it was first released in 2017, I guess. So she played it when it was new. I'm playing it now, but she got really good at using Predator. I struggle using Predator, but I'm good with ambush. So. I mentioned this was our blind playthrough. At the time we were playing this, so the person controlling Sebastian is myself. It's Brian of the B&J Retirement Gaming, and Jackie's playing the game with me. She's the co-pilot. She takes the notes, keeps me straight. Specifically in a blind playthrough, she keeps track of what we encounter in each area, so that when we go through a challenge run, we'll kind of know what to expect. She also keeps track of where we find documents, the various different collectibles, so that when we do a challenge run, we don't have to look for them anymore, nor do we have to rely on, my memory of remembering exactly where we found them. She has kind of detailed notes, and we just can get right straight to them. But we didn't know anything. All we did is... Actually, the way we wound up getting this game is in 2023, Epic gave it away as a free promo. They give away free games almost every week. And in 2023, they happened to give this one away. And I saw the name Shinji Mikami, and I said, "Oh, I want badly." So we picked it up then. And actually, because we picked it up, that's how we wound up purchasing Evil Within 1, because I didn't want to play a second game. I want to play the whole series, right? So we played the first game. We actually purchased it on Steam. Epic gave us this game for free. We purchased the first game on Steam, not out of disloyalty, but just simply because Steam had it on a very terrific sale. So it wasn't on sale at Epic, and it was at... I was trying to get around him, but that wasn't going to work. And so we played the first game on Steam, and then we played this one on Epic. The other thing I recently found out, just today in fact, today being doing the voiceover, I'm doing this months after. We were talking about this being a blind play, and the voiceover is applied months after when the game was played and the video was captured. So Brian and Jackie at the time, we knew nothing other than what was on the store page at Epic about the game. That it was the sequel to The Evil Within 1, Sebastian, survival horror, open world-ish, single player. That's about all we knew. We didn't even look up to see what the achievements were, even though we always try to get 100% on games. But we didn't even know what the achievements were. So we've been guessing at what achievements might be and trying to pick up things, collectibles are almost always tied to achievements. So we try to find everything we can. We do a lot of exploration. But storyline wise, we were just the same as anybody watching this for the first time. We didn't know, we hadn't read any wiki pages, we hadn't watched anybody else play the game, we hadn't read any walkthroughs, any guides. We have all of the assist turned off. So things I found out that when the game first was released, it was released by Bethesda, it's developed by Tango Gameworks, released by Bethesda, and you could link your Epic or your Steam accounts to Bethesda. And by making that connection to the Bethesda servers, they would unlock parts of the game for you so that you could play, for instance, Akumu mode. You could also play with invulnerability, godlike ability, infinite stamina. I think they gave you infinite stamina, invulnerability, and Akumu mode. They may have given you one other godlike tag, but I can't remember what it was, or maybe it was just the two. And at the time, you could complete all of the challenges using those godlike. If you linked your account with Bethesda, you could complete all the challenges using those godlike cheat codes, basically. It appears that our servers are no longer available. We didn't, to be honest, I haven't tried. I didn't try to link my account to Bethesda.
Computer file, Pit Observatory. It's lonely in here and creepy. Dumping these bodies, these things into this pit, and they just keep coming. How did I end up with this detail? I've been hearing things, voices coming from the pit, but that can't be. But if they aren't coming from the pit, then they're in my head, and that's even worse. Oral hallucination is one of the symptoms. But I can't be infected. It's not a virus or a bacteria. It's a mental thing that only infects citizens whose memories have been overwritten. At least that's what they told me. Shit, I gotta keep it together. It's just loneliness. It's making me think like this. Loneliness and being around these freaky corpses. It's not the phenomenon.
Now we know from what we just read, or what we just heard in the file upstairs on the computer up there,
I gotta get out of here.
that this is the first person. This was the first Mobius operative that turned into a lost zombie. Because this is the pit where he was disposing of the bodies. And they talked about maybe it was the exposure to that caused the problem. Alright, this is the last encounter with the Onryō. Now, in this sequence, the first time we were here, we died several times. Well, we died at least 2 times, and you're going to see them on screen. We're going to die because we just kept restarting from the same place. And so I couldn't blend the graphics in. The way we would normally handle this in a more curated cinematic run is that we wouldn't show you the deaths. We would have literally loaded back to a manual save and gone from there. This being our flying playthrough, we decided we would just go ahead and show them. We didn't load back. We felt like we'd gone too far since the last save. But here you'll watch as Sebastian dies to the Onryō again, you'll watch it suck the life force out of him. And that's the same way the priest was looking, that same light coming out and around the neck and the jaws turning transparent. So that was our first death to the Onryō here. You know, now there were a lot of questions about, like, you know, will some of those thicker grating in the railing there, will that protect you? It doesn't. You have to be behind solid wall. It even took us a while to figure out that both doors, like going back up the other going back on the other side doesn't get you out, it just brings you back up to the top up there on the other side of her. So what you're supposed to do is come down here. You're supposed to come down here, and then you will work your way around this room to that doorway in the back that you can kind of see where that light is on. And, well, I guess that's a piece of equipment, but there's a doorway in the back. Yeah, she just threw it open, and she just threw that body on the table out that door. So you need to get all the way back to the other side of that room. And she's going to keep throwing, you know, the medical equipment, the benches and the tables and the desks and what up in the air. And you need to not be behind one that she throws up, because what she's doing is she's lifting them up, looking for souls to suck the life out of, right? It's a very precise thing. You have to come. You have to come this way first. When you do, your way is going to be blocked by that. Now, you know, me personally, I could manage to squeeze underneath that or roll through that, but Sebastian can't. So now you have to go back the other way, and instead of going all the way back out around the pillars in the room, you have to go by the pieces of equipment here. And if you remember, I've said it several times, I struggle getting the carrot, the run to cover carrot to come up so that I know where I can go. Plus, you have to know which way she's looking before you go, right? Running to cover you're not undercover until you get to the other side, right? So you have to be careful, because as she steps away, she'll often look back and then continue moving. So you have to wait until she's truly moving away. And that was me accidentally hitting the turn around button, trying to get off of what I had taken cover under. Now you can see the carrot. It's that little white carrot. Obviously, you don't want to go in there with her. Okay, so we were talking about the gameplay as we did. We did not connect our accounts to Bethesda. In fact, I've been told that's been disabled. I don't know if the Bethesda servers no longer exist. Once they were purchased by Microsoft, those servers were decommissioned, and so you can't actually do that anymore. I haven't actually tried. I may try only because the only way you can play Akumu one-shot kill is by connecting to Bethesda. Right now, that option is not available to me. It says link your account or can't do it. But for our blind play, we don't look up any information. We don't turn on any assist, and we play on kind of the basic, or if you will, standard difficulty setting. In this game, it's called Survival. So we're playing on Survival. We are playing on a PC. And what I found out today is that this game was built such that a lot of the... Now, when I stepped up on that little thing there, I missed... That was a mistake, and she saw us. So here's our other death to the Onryō here. And I absolutely had to show you this one because where we restart is in the corner of the room in a weird position. So for whatever reason, it took this as the respawn point. When realistically, if you're playing through the game, most people are not ever going to wind up back here, and in fact, you don't need to be back there at all. You just need to be here. So now this is I'll walk you through this a little bit. This is a little bit of a tricky spot because as you're behind this, she will go to the left of the screen and she will look over there. And when she moves away to that, she's going to come towards this big, whatever this white piece of equipment that we're hiding behind is. She's going to come towards that. And you think, oh, I can go then, but you can't. Right there, she'll turn back. If you went right when she moved away from the left to the right, she turns back. You have to wait until she actually moves on from there again. Now you can go. And that's hard to know. That was a lesson that cost me hours and hours of gameplay during classic mode. So just thought I'd point that out. But what I found was that PS4s, when the game was released in 2017, PS4 Pro was kind of the top gaming platform that it was released for. That on that, not only could you link your account to Bethesda and get the cheat codes, but you could also...
What does it have to do with this place?
The game played at 30 hertz. And the foes, especially the bosses, like Stefano, when he blinks in and out, the timing of that is based on the frame rate of the game. We're playing on a PC. The PC is capable of playing it at a much, much higher frame rate, but my TV, my monitor, is keeping us tied to 60 hertz.
Torn Psychological Evaluation Report, bottom. The top half of this paper has been torn off. Been kept on duty and observed. The information gained from his experience in STEM could be invaluable for the organization. It has been posited that STEM immersion can have long-lasting residual effects. Detective Castellanos is unique in that he has entered STEM and left STEM without standard preparation or memory overwrite. We could learn a lot about the mental repercussions of STEM used simply by letting him go about his business while we observe him from a distance. I will continue to track Detective Castellanos' mental state via our mandated therapy sessions and will report any findings to the organization on a weekly basis. Walter Harrington, Psych.
Damn. Mobius were using me as their guinea pig. Long-lasting residual effects. They knew STEM would scar me like this.
Now that's the bottom half of the psych evaluation. We found the top half inside a home on Cedar Avenue during Chapter 3 of the game, back in Union. And now we see why why Mobius allowed Sebastian to live after being in Beacon Mental Hospital, in the stem inside Beacon Mental Hospital. Normally, they would have closed that loop and they would have, trimmed off that little loose thread. But because he went in there without any prep and without any knowledge of really what happened, they wanted to see what the effect on a person would be. The reason they wanted to do this is because, as we saw earlier in the game, their plan is to subject the entire world to STEM by turning on a global wireless system. And that will literally suck the entire population of the world into STEM. Therefore, it's important to them to kind of understand what might happen to people that get pulled in that way.
Letter from Police Chief, date November 17th, 2014. Jim here. Just a quick note to give you an update on the Castellanos Beacon situation. We're sending Sebastian in for mandatory counseling. The Beacon incident needs to be kept under wraps, and the good detective is our only loose end. We have many operatives in KCPD, but not enough to ensure total information blackout. Fortunately, our staff psychologist is on the organization's payroll. Once we determine how much Castellanos knows, we can easily instill self-doubt through these sessions. When we're through with him, Sebastian won't be sure if he was witnessed at Beacon was real. Not that he needs much help. He's been stumbling through his assignments like a zombie. Poor son of a bitch is obviously having trouble dealing with whatever happened to him in there. I almost feel bad for him. I've known the guy for over a decade, and it's like he's a different person now. But that's the price of progress. If we want to make an omelet, you gotta break an egg or two. James Van Kirk, KCPD.
Kidman was right. They are everywhere. They were right under my nose the entire time.
Pretty much with the captain keeping the sergeant in the dark, there was no way Sebastian was going to make progress on finding Mobius itself, because they always
A
knew
way out?
exactly what he was looking at and where he was looking. Now on the wall here, you're going to see flashes of scenes from the first game. So Sebastian's memories of the horrors that he underwent in the first game, in the first time he was inside of a STEM system. Bit of a nostalgia for anybody that watched our videos or has played the first game. Not a whole lot to say about him other than the first figure, the hooded figure that we saw there, was Ruvik, who was a psychopath that created the entire STEM system. All right, we'll find out what through that last door in the next episode. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.